Snow is the Lord Patron of Yusnon. If anyone's supposed to protect the people, it's him.
Hey, it's
I
Lightning
guess it makes
talking.
sense, yeah.
Look at that, it's Lightning talking instead of Hope.
But she's talking to Hope, which means, of course, that Hope is going to answer right after.
I don't know, she seems to have quite a long bit of dialogue. Like, seriously, shouldn't this have been a
Jova,
cutscene?
I am absolutely convinced that 50% of the script is Hope's dialogue. I'm not even kidding. I'm genuinely convinced.
I'm with you on
Half
that.
of it.
I'll say this though, I mean, with all this dialogue though, I mean, it's nice that we can do it while we're playing along, but it feels almost like there was a cutscene, but the cutscenes had to be cut, so they just stuck the leftover dialogue from said cutscenes into here.
Probably.
Well, Jova, tight development schedule and budget.
Yeah, this is also a problem that happened in Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness, where there are almost no cutscenes at all. Almost all the interaction between the characters is done through that type of talking. Not via radio, but between each other. It's as jarring as it can get.
Yeah.
The fact that Square Enix treated Tri-Ace like that is still very disgusting, but whatever, it's a topic for another day anyway.
Well,
Point being also, you may notice that the resolution is a bit lower and this runs on 30 FPS. This is because Pedro is playing the PS3 version because, well, honestly, it's the one that he got anyway.
Not just that, Theo, but the PC ports of the Lightning trilogy are spotty, shall we say. They have some issues.
Yeah.
I mean, Durante did fix some of them, but not all of them.
In case you are new to the old Steam port panorama, there's this problem recurring that sometimes, a lot of times, some companies just don't know how to port things on PC, and I don't blame them because, you know, sometimes they don't have experience, so you need like a specific type of coding, all that shit.
Yeah, except the problem is like, well, that excuse falls through when you realize just hire another dev to actually port who knows their thing.
Which a lot of time actually happens. A lot of companies hire different people. I think XIII worked on a PC port, I forgot. Point being, a lot of companies don't manage to make good PC ports, and the results, especially at launch, are shit. However, there's a guy called Durante, an user on Steam, who is specialized on essentially vigilante work on these things.
The Black Mage hat.
True, that's Vivi's hat particularly, complete with the, you know, the stitches.
There you go, Jova. A Final Fantasy IX reference. There you go. Happy?
I never asked for this.
You don't know me?
Go ahead.
Essentially, yeah, this also, what's that mariachi doing in the background?
Not too bright, are you?
Actually, that's a guard, Theo. He's just guarding.
He looks like he has a sombrero.
Talking? I'm
Whatever.
But you gotta
I know it's the other
I
perspective.
suppose
Point
maybe
being,
it's a tricorn, but even still, though, it looks so gaudy from here. Even for
point being,
someone living in the Final
sorry.
Fantasy universe.
True. Well, like I said, Jova, in the previous part, I think these outfits, even for Final Fantasy standards, are ridiculous, and that's saying a lot. Like they went over the shark, and they even just jump on him. Anyway, this guy called Durante specialized in this vigilante work in a sense that as soon as he spots a bad PC port that got released and he thinks he can put his hand on it, give it him like 1 hour at worst, and he will actually fix it and make it actually presentable. Like, the guy has track records on fixing in no time stuff like Lightning Returns, Tales of Symphonia, and one of his magnum opus, Dark Souls at launch. Dark Souls was especially very important because the community of Steam demanded that game big time, and was released. It was shit because Bandai Namco didn't know how to do PC ports back then.
And
But
from what I've
Durante-
seen, they don't know how to do remasters.
It's hit and miss. The port of Tales of Symphonia was the other major case, but otherwise, it's a bit of a roller coaster.
The deal is
but
like, well,
for
have you... Oh, gone.
But as well, for example, the other Tales of ports like the Styrias and Mercer seem to have been fine, especially at launch. Again, it's mostly a hit and miss, especially I think with a licensed game. Like, I don't know how Fighters was at launch, but I don't remember any particular problems with it. But point being, PC ports can be very hard to do it. Sometimes they are completely crappy, but this guy manages to fix them in no time just by altering the code a bit. And Lightning Returns was no exception of this. So one of the reasons why...
CFKL's approaches upon the little land left in the world. Basically, it's random surges of a black fall that makes monsters a bit tougher. But it's okay, you know why? Because every single battle has one... gives a... but inside this thing gives EP. So... trust me, when you see this fog, it's actually a good thing because each monster you kill is one free EP, meaning more time for you to stop the time and render the clock that the game runs on completely useless when it is. So once again, shooting the entire concept of the game in the ass.
And let me guess, the stat increase is not really that big of a deal.
No, look, I literally just killed that monster with complete ease, like you just
Then
saw.
again, you're using the stat boosting.
I'm on a game. Trust me, Teo. You can. This game is not that hard. Trust me.
No, I'm trusting your word. Basically, to conclude rapidly, the reason we're not doing the PC version mostly because, ironically enough, the PS3 version is actually the more stable one.
Wait, but the PS3 version? It's the
Apparently.
most stable one.
PC version.
Well, remember, Joe, but these games were made with the PS3 as the lead platform for development.
Ironic because it was rumored at first that 13 was actually made with the 360 in mind. And I'm talking about the first 13 game.
Actually, no, Teo. Sorry, actually, no, Joe. But the first 13, we've already talked about this. The first 13 was a PS3 exclusive for most of its development. It was announced as a PS3 exclusive.
Well,
on the
I think it
on
was
the Sony
83.
E3 conference.
I'm talking mainly though about how it was rumored at first. Although for some reason people made a big fuss about how the 360 was getting in on the 13 action.
Yeah, that was because of the PS3's shitty sales at the time. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
That's part of why people
they
thought that
tried to jump
apparently
the
Square
gun.
Enix was going to eventually abandon Sony for Final Fantasy. You know, when
Remember, Joe, at the
Joe,
time,
it's a Japanese company. Come on, obviously.
not just that, Square Enix was investing in the 360 in the day because they also asked Tri-Ace to develop two specific games for the 360. A new Star Ocean, the last hope,
Chocolina.
and a new IP called Infinite Undiscovery. However, Last Hope eventually got a PS3 port and eventually a remaster more recently.
So yeah, even though we resolved her subplot in the previous game, she's still here because Toriyama hates me.
So wait, again though, doesn't this mean that there's two Chocolinas since she's also that little chocobo chick?
Paradox.
That's the thing, Joe. But the game doesn't properly explain these things. The Choco chick from the first game can just turn into this. Why? Because Etro did shit.
You know, this is kind of like Harry Potter 3, where it's revealed that a grown man was sleeping with Ron in his bed. I mean,
Only in this case, it's a chocobo chick that cheats on a Afro's guy's head, which I think it's pretty insulting when you think about it.
Also, she's really annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't seem as bad in this game as she did in the last game. I'll give her that.
I
She
guess
still
only
exists.
because, I guess only because you see her more rarely.
Well, hey, at least she's helpful here, and you know, barely in.
She was technically also helpful in the second game, gameplay-wise. It's just that, again, I don't like her.
Is it
Also,
because that
I
she's
don't
that
know,
chocobo
there's-
chick?
Oh, sorry.
However, many venture out there and
Also, there's just something in the aesthetics of both cities, both Luxerio and this one, that kind of just ticks me off.
I think I
looks
got an
like,
idea.
It looks like, I know that they had to use recycled assets and this game had a rush development job, but I have to be blunt, these aesthetics and, textures for the city remind me a lot of those bad quality 3D renders that you see, for example, on the Unity store. Or to be more blunt, in those terrible 3D porn things.
Regarding the aesthetics also, let me say something about this. For the game that was advertised as the epic finale, supposed to be the biggest, baddest confrontation.
Hold on, cutscene important.
But yeah, I will get what you mean, though.
So yeah, now we move into the Wildlands, which means yet another beginning of another subplot that has nothing to do with the previous ones. So again, you start to see what I mean. Again, don't get me wrong, you can't choose to stick to one region at a time. However, considering the point of this game is to maximize efficiency of what you do in the time limit, why not just, try to get as much done as you can, right?
So what
These
you're
also
saying,
connects
Pedro,
to-
is that this is the game where Final Fantasy XIII's sense of linearity in plot would have actually helped out.
These also connects to what I was saying. I said,
No,
but
no, no,
now,
hold on, Theo.
Oh,
It's not so much that, Jova. The plots rather are incredibly linear. The problem is that, again,
Oh, I get that. I'm talking about combined.
The story and the gameplay were made separately. They don't work together.
Pedro, what's the castle from Final Fantasy IX doing here?
You mean Ibsen Castle? Yes.
But
Or
yeah,
more like the Alexandria Castle.
The story and the gameplay were clearly made separate, and they don't actually work together as one.
like, see, okay,
Go ahead, Joe. I'll
let me put it like
continue later,
this.
so.
I get what they're trying to do, have multiple plots that you can choose whether or not to do. Here's the thing, though. Essentially, your choice is, oh, I can do this, or I won't do this. So, okay, what does this change? It literally just changes whether or not the world gets blown up. Like, there's no change if you don't rescue Saz. No real change if you don't bother to rescue Caius or whatnot. And okay, you get a choice. The only choice, though, is that it changes the world. Like, no other cutscenes whatsoever. My point is this. Yes, the plots themselves are linear, but the overall plot is trying to pass itself off as being free roaming, do whatever you want. But essentially, if you want to get the ending that actually matters, you're going to do them anyway. So, if that's the case, why not present them in the case of linearity? And I can't believe I'm saying this. Having it in a sense of linearity would have actually helped the narrative. Like, imagine, as each day goes by, things are escalating higher and bigger. Some of our party members don't want to join eventually because, they've lost hope or whatnot. But we come back eventually and are able to reinvigorate their fates. But here, it's all just done in simple quests, so there's not really much a big sense of growth or progression. Again, it's weird. This feels like a puzzle that got misarranged. Like, seriously. Okay, the way the plot goes here, this feels like it would have helped out the first 13 game being more free roam, because essentially that game was too linear for its own good, whereas the linearity of Final Fantasy XIII constantly building up to the climax would have worked better for this game. And what happened in 13.2 is best left in 13.2. But I digress, though. It feels
The
so
blindest
weird.
of the bunch.
Again, it feels so weird, but if they had switched things around, both this and the first 13 game would have been miles better. It's so surreal.
A lot of us are thinking maybe
Yeah.
that story is true.
Anyway, here's the basic recap of what's happening plot-wise. Basically, letting her ride here, and then she had some kind of vision by the voice of who is clearly Yule, because we recognize the voice.
Yeah.
But maybe it's someone who just sounds like you.
No.
No, it's Yule. Anyway,
When it comes to
anyway, yeah. She said, "Oh, you must find the angel of Valhalla. Find the angel of Valhalla." So she's now asking, "Okay, who the hell is the angel of Valhalla?" And now they're saying, "Oh, you should talk to the doctor, the veterinarian at the town, of the village." So
Which
yeah, we
is
have to
called Dr. Gizal. Get it?
Dr. Gizal, get it, because he treats chocobos.
I don't get it.
Gizal Green.
Before
Gizal Green-
Gigax, ever since the appearance of Chocobo, you use a special herb called Gizal Greens to actually lure them or recharge their stamina, depending on the game.
I
Yeah.
guess that's a more subtle one. I mean,
Also, yeah, to connect what I was saying before, yeah, weirdly enough, in an ambient like the Wildlands instead, the game looks a bit more like it was in 13 and 13.2, like in the Archetyl Steppe or in the more open areas,
Oh, no.
quote-unquote open areas of 13.2.
Not to mention, this particular area has the best world map like themes in this entire trilogy. I love the music that plays in the Wild.
Yeah, out of all the
good.
places, these actually feels the most
Wait,
fantasy-ish.
hold on, why are we leaving?
Dun, dun, dun. Remember, Jova, I'm trying to get as much done. Basically, Jova, here's the thing. I'm almost done with my day, but I figured I could go to the desert so I can register the teleport point, so it's easier for me to teleport there in the following days. Because remember, in order to fast travel, I have to travel to each region's warp point at least once.
I see.
So I'm getting as many teleport points under my belt as possible to make my job easier in the following days.
So my question, is there anything keeping you from just, again, doing side quest, and then choosing to maybe go a day forward?
No, there's nothing preventing me from doing that now.
So essentially, you could pretty much, I don't want to call it pull and enter the Dragonfly, but you could pull something similar to that and basically get the max credentials you'll be getting for a playthrough in one day.
Well, not necessarily. Well, no. Unless you hack the game, you will not be able to get all the main quests done in a day. That's not possible.
Okay. Okay,
Also,
let me...
you're comparing it to a far simpler kind of game.
Okay. Let me reiterate. You can get pretty much all the main... I mean, you can pretty much get all the side quests that you'll ever be able to get in one day, except for those, I guess, triggered by finishing a certain main quest. Am I right?
You can get a lot of side quests done in a short amount of time if you know what you're doing. Yes.
And you can essentially... and again, it sounds like the clock only proceeds when you actually complete a main quest. Is that how it goes?
No. The clock is always ticking. Like here's the basic gist of it, Jova. You start with 6 days. Each main quest gives you an extra day, equaling to 13, which is the number of days you need to see the real ending. However, if you finish, I think it's like 45 side quests. Like if you finish like most of the side quests, you'll manage to unlock an extra 14th day that allows you to go to the hardest dungeon in the game and fight the hardest boss in the game.
There's a
The super boss.
And let me guess, the
But it's
14th
not worth
ending...
showing, I can
Does the
tell you,
14th
Jova.
ending actually give you a different ending, or is it just
No,
literally
it
a
doesn't.
dungeon?
It's just gameplay. It's just gameplay
It's
stuff.
just for optional dungeon and super boss. I can tell you already, Jova, it's nothing tied to the plot. It's essentially a super-powered SIP with no real backstory to it.
If you ask me, it's not even worth it because the rewards you get don't really like by the time like all the effort you went just to get to that dungeon and complete it means you've already completed the game anyway. So trust me, it's not really worth doing all
For
that trouble.
comparison, with an older Final Fantasy game like Final Fantasy V did a thing like this with Omega, they knew that you would be practically overpowered by going it. So the only thing you get by beating it is bragging rights with an emblem that tells you, congratulations, you beat the super boss, now get alive.
Let me guess, you don't even get that in this game made in
No,
2014.
I think you get some gear. Let me check precisely.
Yeah,
what,
you get powerful items basically.
Well, I'll check on the wiki just to be sure anyway.
Now,
Actually worth it.
Like Pedro said, no.
Like we just explained, no, because trust me, you'll most like the only way you're even gonna get to that is for New Game Plus anyway. So you'll already be done with the story anyway. And trust me, this game, while the battle system is really good, it's not really worth playing 60 hours of extra content at all.
from what I've heard, apparently you can't even really get the proper ending in one run for whatever reason.
You can if you play on easy mode, but here's the basic gist of it, Jova. The game is clearly designed with New Game Pluses in mind. I recommend starting your first playthrough on easy mode. Why? Because the final boss is complete and utter horse shit. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself.
And let me guess, if you lose to that boss, then you automatically lose the game and you have to start a new playthrough.
Yeah. Well, let's just say the final form of the final boss is bullshit. I'll explain properly when we actually get to it.
Okay.
Anyway,
Also,
go ahead, Jova.
ladies and gentlemen, we have finally reached it. The sand of absolute... What the hell were the developers
Plastic,
thinking?
Yeah, we were
seriously.
talking about this in
Plastic
Sonic.
sand.
We were talking
Plastic
about this in Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. So there you go.
They have
And
worse
you-
sand textures than Sonic Boom Rise
You
of
want
Lyric.
also a kicker. Lightning doesn't have a shadow, I think.
Nope.
Well,
Well, I mean,
actually, she does
okay,
have
a
a shadow,
faint
but it's
shadow.
just she does have a shadow, but it's only just a circle.
But hey,
Oh,
guys,
okay.
we can slide down the sand like in Journey.
Why can't,
Isn't
I
that
was
cool?
Gonna say, why
No.
can't we look at the sand from Journey instead?
Which came out first, by the way, this or Journey?
Journey.
Journey.
Came out
Oh,
in
really?
2012. This came out in
Oh.
2013 in Japan.
And Journey was practically an indie game, and it looks better than this. Yes, I know it was shorter, but even still, this was using reused assets. Why does it look worse than the actual assets from 13.2?
Because Motomo Toriyama was too busy masturbating to his own waifu
Okay.
fanfiction.
Don't
And
get
you
me
can
wrong.
tell by that because all Lightning's outfits pretty much leave her armpit naked.
What
Yeah.
is... Wait.
You'll be surprised, Jova. Leave the
Oh, the
internet
side boob.
to that. Yeah.
I don't know, I mean... Oh, right, that... Although, if I'm to...
Some people have really weird tastes. Let me just say that.
At least
Anyway,
he doesn't have a foot fetish.
yeah, like Tarantino. Anyway, for information purposes, the Super Boss called Ereshkigal drops the Diamond Mating necklace, which increases your HP by 10,000. What they fucking do. And in hard mode, it drops the Heroic Guard, which greatly reduces the damage taken from aim attacks, but at a high ATB cost.
And what's the outfit
Basically,
look
yeah.
like?
From what I get, we're just we're not cosmetics. We're purely stat gear.
Wait, hold on. There's stat gear in this game where you're supposed to dress up lightning?
Apparently.
Everything in this game is meant to dress up to play Barbie dressing.
Well,
with
apparently though, just stat gear means it doesn't change her appearance.
I'm surprised if I had the means to do so, I would totally do a Lightning Returns parody where it's just a Barbie-like commercial. Barbie, that's like you can dress lightning. You can dress lightning with all these pretty dresses. Don't you like that, girls?
And suddenly
No.
Toriyama shifted into his Final Fantasy X phase there for a bit.
Okay, so this is Solandra. Don't bother her. She's not important.
What a weird hat.
She looks like a pirate, I guess, but then again, that wouldn't make sense for a pirate
Oh,
to
look
be out
at
here.
that! Oh, look at that! Her gang was considered the 13 Hunters. Get it? It's clever. Anyway,
Wow, such horrors. Okay.
Is it though?
Okay, question. I'm having trouble telling. Is she supposed to be sarcastic, or is that just bad acting? Like, I mean, she's saying, "Oh, such horrors," but it's hard to.
most likely bad acting since like the voice actors are given such terrible writing to work with anyway. Also, her animations are terrible.
Also, for context, Jova, the High Guard is actually an ability, so it's not tied to the gear, and the Diamond Necklace is an accessory which doesn't count for the
This is a
cosmetics.
side quest. This is a side quest that I always recommend doing in this game because
Also, there's a fucking dragon in the
What the
middle of
hell?
the streets.
And,
Because
and,
most
and
of
we
them-
can fight it? What? Wait, what?
Well, we just explained. She just explained this, Jova, in the dialogue. This is the dragon that killed all of our gang. So we're
So,
trying to
the
avenge him.
dragon that killed her gang is just chillaxing in an alleyway down here where anyone can run into it.
Of course, Jova. Don't you know?
I'm sorry. It's a dragon. Like, okay, when did it kill her gang?
Dragons like hanging out in alleyways. What are you
So,
talking
I'm
about?
sorry, when did it kill her gang? Like, I mean, from the way she said, it sounded like it was ages ago, but what, was it just a few minutes ago?
Oh, jeez.
That's just the
Like-
thing, Jova. Again, you see what I mean about the side quests? The side quests are either stupid or way too mundane and completely. Oh my God, he's still talking.
Speaking of mundane, I also have another critique to give, if I may.
Go ahead.
Good.
Okay, again, as I was saying, because this one is going for a formula that does not fit its story well, it's anticlimactic, but you know there's another thing that makes this even more anticlimactic than the first 13-2 games? Areas like this. Like, okay, I get it. Sometimes RPGs are going to have confined areas. This takes what was bad about 13-2 and makes it even worse by adding in some of the confinements from Final Fantasy XIII. Hey, you hated linear hallways? Well, we gave you big, open, bland circles in 13-2. Now we give you big, bland, open circles in Lightning Returns with narrow paths like this, because we're so lazy. Like, seriously, I just realized they combined the problems of 13 and 13-2 right here. Like, I get it, you know, not all areas are like this, but from what I've seen, quite a few are, and it makes the game feel dull, confined in these boring areas where nothing's going on. Like, heck, even in Final Fantasy VII, when we were in places like Midgard, stuff was going on. You know, we also had good music to help out with
Yeah.
the mood, but again, I mean, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IX, again, there's so much more happening in those areas on much weaker tech here.
But those
Yeah.
games were made by talented people.
I mean, and again, some of the people who made Final Fantasy X, which, don't get me wrong, is far from perfect, but even that still had the machinations that helped make a Final Fantasy game good.
The primary thing for that job is that Sakaguchi was still around in the production of 10 to make sure the thing was not too humiliating, at least not to this extent. But even he, with that game, was starting to show the signs of what we would see in Blue Dragon, basically. Sadly.
And, I mean, heck, even 10-2, which is supposed to be the fan services game, that one at least feels like it's got its own roots. It's unique enough, and I can still have fun with it.
I hate this. I hate for the most part. I do like that scene with the song. Not the opening one. You know the one.
Yeah, the one that actually reveals the backstory.
Yeah. I like that scene. But the story in general is crap. But yeah, the gameplay of 10-2 is actually pretty good. I'll
give it this. The story, while being crap, did have some humor moments that were at least tongue-in-cheek enough to let us know that we weren't supposed to take it seriously. Here, we get stupid fan service, and we're supposed to take it seriously, like Lightning revealing her cleavage to Fang and 13.
I appreciate the more comedic tone that game took. However, I still think a lot of it was unfunny. If you want a comedic Final Fantasy game done right, play World of Final Fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
It was not a good stop series.
It didn't...
I mean, heck.
It didn't have the World of Spira is so uninteresting to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
World of Final Fantasy, on the other hand, you can consider that. You not just that. You can consider this a bit of a cop-out, but most of the ruins you're visiting are actual, much like, think of it like Sonic Generations. You're visiting realms from the previous games. But considering the Final Fantasy has never done a game in this structure ever anyway, it's fine.
I consider World of Final Fantasy to
be... It's a great 40th anniversary game, if you ask me.
I consider...
Sorry, Jova, give me a second. They did, and they're doing it with a couple of their crossover. Remember, even Dissidia had a similar structure, although it had a different type of plot. Sorry,
and
Jova,
hey, maybe Kingdom Hearts 3 will stop giving Final Fantasy the shaft, but that's another story. Oh, hey, the Final Fantasy theme. How nice. Anyway.
Well, Jova, maybe we'll get to visit Shibuya.
Which is not Final Fantasy, but whatever.
I think also the
but I love
difference between Final Fantasy and something like 10-2 is that you have one that contains nostalgia for the sake of pandering, but then you have World of Final Fantasy, which is a deliberate love letter. It was made with that intent.
Not just that, but it also has its own. But even if you haven't played the previous games, you can still enjoy it for the great gameplay and the original story that it does tell. That doesn't require most of them. You obviously you'll get a lot more out of the story if you're a fan of the series, like me and Teo, because you'll get all the little references. However, even non-fans can enjoy the story still because it tells a really good story.
A lot of the humor in that pretty funny, despite not
I didn't gravitate towards all the humor, and seriously, I forget what the male protagonist's name was, but I think they made him a bit too dumb.
I don't know. Rain is the Lon.
Yeah, they made him a bit too dumb and too consistently the butt of jokes, but I digress with that. I consider World of Final Fantasy to be the turnabout academy of Final Fantasy games, in the sense that while the plot isn't the strongest, and while some of the jokes don't hit, when the jokes do hit, it's definitely some of the most hilarious stuff I've seen before, and that alone facilitates it.
It's not even so much that. Like, for the most part, the story relies on its lightheartedness to make you care for the characters and the jokes, and stuff like that. But when you get to the climax and you get the big plot twists, the game becomes incredibly depressing.
Well, so yeah, I'll admit I didn't really care for that tone shift in the end, but it frankly did not ruin the experience for me. It still definitely
because I was invested in the characters, so it worked for me, honestly.
Wow, 3 parts in on the first day is just finally over. Like,
well, Joe, but that's just me. Of course, I know this game like the palm of my hand at this point, so I know how to maximize my time efficiency.
Well,
at this point.
Honestly, Pedro, even for someone new, I think this would feel a bit lengthy because, look, let's compare this to Majora's Mask. The clock is constantly ticking, and while I don't care that essentially, for the true ending, you're technically undoing what you did for these people because you gotta go back in time eventually before the moon wrecks everything, at the very least, it gives you that sense of urgency here and there, like, you really have to hurry and, get stuff done. Whereas here...
Well, technically that's only for when we're doing the cycles throughout the game. When you actually do the actual ending of the game, that's it. You're not actually going back in time. And you even seen the credits, all the people that you've helped and stuff.
Oh, I know that. Wait, hold on. Are you telling me that the clock in this game is still ticking even when you're on to the final route?
No. When you get to the 13th day, there's no time limit anymore.
Okay.
Surprisingly, I don't get why, but
okay.
There you go. Day 2, 6 days till the end.
I guess
again,
I'm
the reason it says 6 is because again I haven't done any finished any main quests yet. But go ahead.
And I guess on the one hand, it does give. Wait, why did we bother starting that cutscene outside the Ark, yet go back to the Ark?
Actually, we were still inside the Ark.
Yeah.
Really?
The
It
tree
looked
of,
like we
the
were
tree of
outside.
Yggdrasil is there. There you go, Joe. You can see that in
Oh.
the background.
Weird, because it looks so different because the CGI cutscene looked better than the in-game stuff, like to a point where it's starting to become distracting.
Anyway, everybody, tune in next time where Hope has a lot more to exploit on us. Yay!
Hooray!
Joyful. See ya.
See you then.
See ya.
So yeah.